I got to introduce myself maybe first. My name is Robert Michael and I'm a blogger. That means that I write blogs about all kinds of subjects, mostly politics, sometimes paranormal things, but also about things like the environmental subjects, things that we got fucked by our government. The great global warming bullshit. That's what I want to talk about, and that's why I do it in English. Because I find it too important to leave it just to the Dutch to realize what the fuck is going on. Right now, Mars is heating up with the same speed as Earth is doing. And probably if we would have the measurement equipment on Uranus or whatever planet, we will discover that those are heating up at the same speed as well. It's the solar activity right now that is so damn intense that is actually doing the whole bullshit. That's heating up Earth, that's heating up Mars, and probably the other planets. And as a result of that, the oceans will heat up. Well, you got to realize one thing. The ocean is the biggest container of CO2. There's not a place on Earth where there's more CO2 than in the bloody oceans. Because over the centuries, and we're talking here hundreds of centuries, every bushfire, whatever, that produced CO2, the CO2 was collected by the rain and ended up in the ocean. As long as the ocean stays cold, there's no problem, because it's like a bottle of Coke. Get an ice cold Coke and you will see the bubbles stay inside far longer than we have a warm bottle of Coke. The bubbles will be gone in something like half an hour. That is happening with the oceans too. Of course, there are volcanoes on the bottom of the ocean that are actually heating up the seas or the oceans as well. But most of all, it's the activity of the sun that right now is heating up the fucking oceans, making CO2 getting into the air. More CO2 than we ever are able to produce. I read something in an English magazine, and that was one about with clever guys, not just some assholes, that wrote the CO2 production of men right now, factories, cars, whatever you can imagine, together is about 0.05% of what is produced by the oceans. So our share on the global warming, even if we reduce it, is so limited that it is probably useless to do something. Why the hell would we do that? I mean, in taking energy out of the solar, that's a good idea. I mean, we got a more intense sun, so you can take solar power, and that's a damn good idea. We only have to find a way to make the production of it far bigger. It's a little bullshit to put a little solar cell somewhere else and say, oh, I'm charging my phone. Well, good for you. It's probably taking something like a billionth part of the consumption in 1 second that we do all together. So it's pretty useless. What is not useless is trying to make collecting sun power on a level that is bigger than we're doing now, but maybe in a different way. Maybe we need to find another way of using the power of the sun. No, another thing we're doing is building windmills. Clever. Do you know what happens if you put windmills along the coast, for instance? It means that straight behind those windmills, the wind power will drop. And I mean dramatically drop. The stream in the air will slow down because you take energy out of it. If you take the coastline, it might actually end up being more rain, because behind the windmills the clouds won't move that fast anymore. The clouds will hang there and they drop the rain out. We all together should realize that we got fucked by our governments. They want to have more taxes. They want to talk you into buying new cars. That's good for the economic, especially because of all the tax they charge on new cars. And do you want to drive in a Prius? I don't want to look like a bloody idiot, so I don't. I drive a decent car but pay a fucking fortune on road tax, with the excuse you're more polluting than a small car. Fucking bullshit. I just told you where CO2 is coming from, not out of my car. My car is probably, well, like I said, a trillionth part of what is produced. And then the trillionth part is not even that 1.5% of what's produced. We got fucked. We got fucked big by the government. And by the environmental groups, if that's the right pronunciation, because English is not my normal language. You got to excuse me on that one, I'm bloody Dutch. I mean, Greenpeace and stuff like that, they're just a bunch of fucking assholes. Greenpeace is a multinational. A multinational in pissing off people and trying to force us in buying things we don't want or especially don't need. Global warming is a point that you should actually get into. Try to find the documentary The Great Global Warming Hoax. I think you might like that. It's swindle, sorry, Great Global Warming Swindle. It's a British documentary that tells you exactly how things are. And not the way Mr. Al Gore wants you to believe it, because he is the biggest fucking liar around. He lives somewhere in a house that has air conditioning that takes more power than the average little town. Things to think about. Global warming is bullshit. We're right now warming up the whole solar system, thanks to the sun getting power. Thanks to that, the oceans are heating up. Thanks to that, CO2 is getting into the air. That's the reason and nothing else. Think about it, and if there are more than, let's say, 1,000 people watching this clip, I will make another one about other subjects. Until then, see you. My name is Robert Michael. I'm from Holland.